that we've been ongoing, or menstrual health series that has been ongoing. Last 2 days we had the men with us, and today we've got the women. So I've got I've got Sembe with me. I'm so sorry. So I've got Sembe with me all the way from Malawi, and I've got Dr. Bernice. Thank you for joining, Dr. Bernice, all the way from Ghana. So it's gonna help us have the different perspective, the cultural perspective, within this conversation, as we've got different um, backgrounds here on this conversation. So thank you all for joining, and with our listeners too, you can join in either in the comment section, or if you've got any submission where you want to come online and speak to, show interest in the comment section, and then we'll be able to bring you on board for you to share your perspective as well. So with menstrual health, we at AAA believe that it shouldn't just be a conversation for May, during the menstrual health week or menstrual health month. It should more or less be an everyday conversation, because every day a girl starts menstruating, every day a woman also starts menstruating, every day there's a new thing that we need to learn, and every day there's a stigma that needs to be um, broken, so, or a taboo that needs to be broken. So today, we're still ongoing with the topic, and we're here to have a nice conversation with the ladies. The men did so well on Wednesday. I enjoyed that conversation with Paul and Emily. Thanks so much again to you guys. So today, Sembe and Dr. Bernice. If I can get you, Sembe, to introduce yourself and tell our listeners a little bit about yourself, that would be great.
Okay, thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Sembe. I am from Malawi. I am currently the co-founder of an organization called Women and Health Association. Our main focus is uh, creating awareness amongst young girls and women on issues to do with cervical cancer and menstruation. So we educate young girls in rural communities. We have our online campaigns. We get to have talks with girls. And yeah, that's about Women and Health Association. I am also a human rights activist. I graduated with a bachelor's in human rights, and I do research on the other side, and I'm currently volunteering in a rural community we call Africa. So that's like in a nutshell what Sembe is all about and who she is. So thank you
Nice,
for having
nice.
me.
Thank you for joining us. We appreciate you, and with your background, I know we're going to learn a lot, especially when it comes to the perspective in Malawi. So yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Bernice. How are you this evening? Thanks for joining. If you can also introduce yourself and tell us who Dr. Bernice is, that would be great.
Okay, hi everyone.
Hello.
Yeah, so Dr. Benedicta Agyeman Prempeh. I'm currently working at the Eastern Regional Hospital in Koforidua in Ghana. I'm based in Ghana. I've been in Ghana all my life, so who knows, maybe I might be traveling outside soon.
Very soon. Come
and
to UK.
oh, amazing. I'll be waiting for the invitation.
Don't worry, I'll give you.
Yeah, I'm also an entrepreneur and a business person. I'm in charge of all special bites, where we make stews and soups on pre-order basis for individuals and events. I'm also involved in all special apparel. We sell fabrics and jewelries for both males and females.
Wow,
So
you do
that's
all
what
of
I.
this as a doctor as well. Wow,
Yes, please, by the grace of God and the
that's
support of
amazing.
family.
Nice.
Yeah. So that's basically about me. I'm passionate about anything pertaining to youth development and empowerment, and also building that strong presence among the youth to find their purpose and attain it. So that's
Nice.
me.
That's amazing, ladies, that we got here today. All doing great stuff out there, and continue with the good work. And thank you so much for honoring our invitation. You can put your cameras on, so that the viewers can see your beautiful faces. I feel like I'm the only one talking to myself. Here we go. Thank you. Yeah, I had to turn my camera off. I already told Simba why I did that. So now I have to be, since we started, now I have to be online. Yes, so thank you very much. Here we are, so that we can see who we're talking to. Thank you so much. So, menstrual health week. I know we all did something, or we all contributed one way or the other. So let me ask this question, and I'll start with you, Simbe. In Malawi, do you only celebrate? How do you celebrate menstrual health week or menstrual health day? And why do you celebrate it, especially in your community, or even as an individual? Why do you think this is important? And then we come to you, Dr. Bernice.
Okay, so in Malawi, I think the celebration is not just for a week
Mm,
as menstrual week, because culturally we have practices where once a woman, once a girl starts her period, there's like a celebration by other women. So it's like an
okay.
intergenerational celebration where girls come together and women of different ages have to, teach this girl what exactly you're supposed to do, how to conduct yourself, and things of that sort. But I think of recent, I've seen a trend where organizations are actually donating reusable sanitary pads and engaging young girls in schools about menstrual health, hygiene, and things of that sort. So I feel like it's important for us to celebrate because there's a lot of stigma and secrecy around the topic.
Mm,
And when we have a week where we talk about menstrual health, it's like you are now trying to move out of the shadows where girls feel comfortable talking about their bodies, what exactly they go through, and some of the issues that people don't necessarily understand when it comes to women and menstrual health. So I personally put out stickers. I usually like to talk about endometriosis because I feel like that's not something that we talk about when it comes to menstruation.
mm-hmm.
So that's basically things that I celebrate and talk about during the menstrual week. But as for Malawi as a country and the community, as in where I'm serving, we have conversations about menstrual health. It's just that it's done in secrecy and most people don't want to talk about it.
Yes.
So yeah,
It's
that's
that
that's
secrecy,
how I
isn't
see
it?
it.
It's the fact that it has to be a
Exactly.
secret. Yeah.
Exactly.
Right. That's a great submission. And again, this is why AAA, we're having this series, even though we're in June, we could be embarking on a different topic, but we've chosen to stick with the menstrual health because it should be an everyday topic or everyday discussion, and not just
Hmm.
a week or a day, or wait till the month of May every year to celebrate or talk about it, because it's ongoing. So yeah, I like the fact that you do the celebration openly though. When
Hmm.
when it's that time. I guess that's when they're starting it, when they see it the first time. Is
Hmm.
that it?
Yeah, so usually, because of schools and things of that sort, they usually have months. And
Okay.
in different districts, it's like they usually target when kids are on holiday. So we're
Okay.
talking about September, August, and then these girls, it's like initiation camps. So when
Mm.
they go for initiation camps is when they get to talk about menstruation. They celebrate young women who have now started their period. So it's like a whole celebration of womanhood.
Oh,
And
that's amazing.
exactly everything nice about being a woman. And yeah, that's about it.
That's a great culture to have. I think it
Hmm.
is, especially in this time and age where it's secretive, like we've mentioned. Dr. Bernice.
Hi, sorry, I think I went off at a point.
Yeah, no worries. So yeah, we're still talking about the first question as to what menstrual health day or month means to us. what you embarked on as either as an individual or as an organization, or if you join any organization during that period, and also what it means to you as an individual
Okay,
or as a
thank you very
woman.
much.
Actually, you're welcome.
Okay, so I first want to really appreciate you for this great work you are doing.
Thank
I
you.
know other weeks are well celebrated. Been a bit silent on the whole period of menstrual hygiene, and I think this has
Mm,
been a very good advocacy. I must commend you for. So during this
thank
celebration,
you for joining us.
I think there's been about the experiences they get to
I think we're losing you, Dr. Bernice, if you can hear us. Am I the only one? I can't hear
No, I can also hear her, so I think we're losing her. It must be the network or
the
something.
network. Yeah.
Hmm.
But she's speaking though, because I can hear the
Yeah, I
faint.
can hear like the bits and yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the network. Hello, Dr. Bernice.
be in the healthcare system.
I think now we've lost her, unfortunately.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, we
Yeah,
have.
the network. I think yes on Wednesday, Emily, we had the same issue with Emily, but it's one of those things that you can't help it. It's out of our
Hmm.
control. So yeah, Dr. Bernice, sorry if you can join. Hopefully this time it will be with a better. The network will allow you or allow us to learn from you and what you've got for us. Yes. So yeah. So let's get back to the conversation with Malawi.
Hmm.
Share some beliefs surrounding menstruation. Let's start with a good one because we barely talk about the good one. I mean, celebrating it in the open, I believe, is a good one.
It's a
It means
good thing, yeah.
yeah, we're not shying away from it, and we're celebrating women for being for being a woman, and that time of the month is or that first time they experience it is very important. For
Hmm.
them to be celebrated. So yeah, so that I see that as a good thing. So yeah, if you can share some of the great beliefs surrounding or cultural attitudes in Malawi surrounding menstruation, and then we will talk or delve into the negative one.
Okay. So I think as a young Malawian, I've also gone through a situation where you get your first period. Who do you tell? Like
Mm,
those are the things that it's like, okay, so what happens now? Who do I talk to? So I think one of the things that is common amongst Malawian girls and women, be it in the rural setting or in a city, is that you always know if you get your first menstruals, it's a woman who's going to talk to you.
mm,
So it's like an intergenerational thing. A woman's going to understand that this is exactly what happens. So they
mm,
prepare you. It's like you get to learn from someone who's been there, who has done that, and they
that's good.
take you through the whole process. Exactly. So that's one thing that I like to I like about the situation when it comes to the information that you get. You're getting it from someone who has been there, has experienced it, and they get to pass on information to you.
Mm.
The other thing that I have learned through a documentation that I was a part of, a research, we traveled across Malawi to find out some of the cultural practices within the initiation camps. And one of the areas that we touched on was on menstruation. And one thing that I found fascinating, and one of the areas was that they have girls of different ages. So if girls from 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 have had their first menstruals, they are put in a different space because they're new to this whole
Wow.
situation. And
Yeah.
they have like their own hut and an older woman and people of different ages come through. So it's like
Mm.
they're giving you information that
Mm-hmm.
is age appropriate. They
Yes.
want to make you feel safe. This is normal. You're going to go through this process and you don't have to feel like you're dying or anything of
Mm-hmm.
that sort. You will experience this and that. So that was one thing that I liked. And we learned that from a chief in Dedza, Chief Kashintamoto. I hope you have come across her. She's like one of the greatest champions of gender equality, girl education. So I had the privilege of getting to meet her and learning more about what they do uh, back at their camp. So they have a whole rooms that are set up for young girls in such spaces. So that was one of the things that I liked about it. You also go through a phase where you are taught of what to utilize during your menstruals. So this is piece of information from, like, as I've already mentioned, ladies that have been there. These are materials that they've used. Are they
Mm.
of great standard? Some communities no, but these are, they give you the resources. This is exactly what you're expected to use when you're on your menstruals. This is how we expect you to be as a woman during your menstruals. Take your baths, this and that. So those are some of the things I think I look at and go like, okay, as a sisterhood, even if it's
Mm-hmm.
intergenerational, we're always there's always that feeling of we're going to look out for you. Of course, when you start your first menstruals, it's usually not your mom who's going to come speak to you. They have to send your aunt to come talk to you because, as we mentioned, secrecy. So I think there's this sort of
Mm.
uttermost respect that your mom can talk to you about it, but your aunt is going to be there to talk to you about what you need to know about your menstruation. So it's the whole circle of sisterhood and
Yeah.
menstruation and everything that you need to know that I think are some of the positives that I take out from Malawi and our experience with ladies and the menstruation.
Wow, that's amazing. That's a good one to have, and I'm glad to hear it. We'll come back to the menstruation camp. We'll ask you more questions about it. Because
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's a common one. But yeah, we and the ones that I know of has a very negative connotation to it. The girls are separated because they're seen as unclean. But yours
Mm-hmm.
comes with a positive story, so we will delve into that more later. Dr.
Mm-hmm.
Bernice, yeah, do we have you back?
Yeah, so
Oh,
sorry.
yes,
We had some.
that's fine.
Yeah, there were some heavy rains this evening, so the network has been messing up all evening. So
Yeah,
sorry for that.
yeah, no
Yeah.
problem.
So
Yeah, our two guests are having the same issue. So hence why they're not here. But yeah, we will.
okay.
Hopefully, we'll be able to keep you till the end. Yeah.
Hopefully.
Yeah, so if you can share what you were sharing with us before the network, that's up.
Okay, so I was saying that it's been a good one so far, having this increased or heightened awareness during this period.
Mm,
I think when I just joined in, I heard some beautiful things that Simba was sharing about how their culture is, even though I don't know so much about how it used to be before, but I've gathered a couple of stories about how the whole situation or the whole period of menstruation was for younger ladies back in the days, in years past. As you said, it used to have a very strong and negative connotation when a woman is actually going through that period. And I was actually surprised when I heard all about the aunt coming in. It seemed like a
Yes,
whole family thing.
a whole family.
It
Yeah,
seemed like a
it's
whole
nice.
family
It's
thing.
nice.
It is. It is. And I know when way back in school, they used to talk to us about this whole period. When a lady gets into that stage of her life, and I know there are certain cultures where they used to have a whole celebration for them, sort of
Mm,
initiating them into womanhood. But I think gradually over the years, that bit of I don't know if it's still in existence. Even if it is, I think it will be limited to very, very obscure places, or if I should say, the rural
so
communities.
yeah.
Yeah, but now it's in our circles. It has actually transitioned from a period where, if a young girl actually tells the mom that, okay, this is what is happening to me at this stage, you know, I'll say this for fun, but I remember the first time I told my mom, she gave me an egg, like some nice egg and meat on my it was a whole big thing, because even though I was being taught about it in school, when it happened, it felt a bit odd
God,
because
yeah.
of I used to see some people saw themselves sorry to say in school, and guys used to tease them and all that. So that kind of effect was just hanging somewhere in my subconscious mind. But when I had that welcome from my mom, I knew that, okay, this is like an achievement. Okay, this is not,
Mm,
I may not be given an award, but I've stepped into a new niche. So I think it's very important that we are having these conversations for people to know actually what menstrual health is all about, menstrual hygiene is all about. And as I was saying earlier, as a healthcare personnel, we are doing our best to also infuse that into meeting our clients, just
mm,
trying to let them know how important it is. Because now there are so many conditions that females and women are having in their older years, which can be attributed to how their menstrual health was when they were much younger. So I think this is a very good topic, a very excellent one that needs a lot of people to actually come on board so that we can disseminate the right level of knowledge to as many people as possible. Yeah, thank you.
thank you so much. And it's great to have a medical perspective as well. A lot of the time when we are having this conversation, because I always say mental, menstrual hygiene and menstrual health, those two, it's good to treat it as the two different topics, because the hygiene side of it and then the health side of it is what makes it a great topic or a great concern for all of us, because there's one thing talking about the products that you use, how you wash and how often and whatnot, in the
Yeah.
hygiene stuff, but during that period as well there's a lot of health issues that comes with it before and after, like as Dr. Bernice has clearly said it. And because there's not a lot of conversation about it, over the years, there's so many preventable um, illnesses that we could have, but because it's not been talked about, it's not the education is not been widely spoken about, it becomes a thing. And so I hope now that we're all getting our voices involved, and not hiding it and openly having these conversations, that the younger generation, it will be different for them. And a
Yeah.
time to come, we'll be talking about all the positive side and not so much of the negative stories that has been ongoing for some time now. So yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Bennis, for your submission. So
Welcome.
Simba was talking to us about the camp, and I'm very interested in it because it sounds very positive. The camps that I know have all been negative. So for the Malawi side, where the camp is actually to teach them and also celebrate them, I want to hear more, and I'm sure so do our listeners. So yes, Simbe, how does this camp work, and where is it situated? How do you How do they get involved? How do they find the girls? If you
Okay,
can
so
enlighten us.
okay, so the thing is, I think we'll go back to what I mentioned. It's
Mm.
during the initiation camps.
Okay.
So, or automatically they have different age groups that are coming through the initiation camps. But how, so usually they have girls from the ages of 8 going that side to the teenagers and the young women. However, if they now, because your mother is going to tell the ladies that are responsible for the initiation camp, oh, my daughter started her menstrual, so I want you to talk to her about
Mm.
this. As we've already mentioned, mothers are not expected to tell you, or we're not expected to tell you about your menstruation. So they would go back to the women that are in charge of the camp to say, okay, my daughter is coming through this month, but she has started her menstruals. I would like you to talk to
Mm.
her about that. So because of the different age groups, I learned that they have a place called Kumadzi. So now Kumadzi, Madzi in Chichewa means water. And
Okay.
every time a woman goes through her menstruation, it's called kusamba, something like bathing or cleansing. So you now see the whole thing of between water and bathing and cleansing. So they called this place kumadzi. So it's like specifically meant for teaching you about your menstruals, how to take care of yourself, and the famous talk that I feel like almost every girl gets in an African household. Now that you've begun your period, you're not expected to. It's not like they literally come to you and say you're not expected to have sex. It's the whole situation where there's secrecy and the messages are so scripted because they'll
Mm.
come around and tell the girls you're not allowed to play with boys. So now you're talking to a young girl, but last time I went to have this conversation with the chief who was telling me about their camp and what they do at the initiation camp, she said, no, we try to make the to censor our messages, but for the
Mm.
girls to understand, because we understand that they're young and they're still trying to get a hang of what is going on with their bodies, what is happening. So we let them know, if you engage with boys and have sex, you get pregnant, which is not the same for some communities, because they'll literally tell girls, no, if you play with boys, you're going to get
If you
pregnant.
play.
Now, this is, if you play with boys, you get pregnant. So you're talking to a girl who's playing with boys this whole time. And
Mm.
I think the understanding is, oh, if I'm going to continue playing around with them, I'm going to have a baby. So it's still the whole situation where we're going back to the secrecy about the whole situation. However, when it comes to this camp, it's like older women are coming to share information with young girls that are experiencing their menstruals for the first time, helping
Mm.
them understand how they can take care of themselves during the cycles, some of the symptoms they're likely to experience during their menstruals, and things of that sort. However, this is just a situation in one of the initiation camps. The situation is not the same in all initiation camps, because in as much as they have these conversations about how you take care of yourself, a celebration of womanhood, I think you mentioned that we should firstly focus on the positives. I just wanted to mention before we get to that point to say, in as much as it's a celebration and some camps are actually adopting the modern way of you know sharing this information, there's so
Mm.
many negatives that also surround menstruation and some of the messages that are shared with young girls and young adolescent girls in these spaces. So we can look at a lot of positives, but we should also, I think, talk about some of the things that we need to improve with such camps. What is it exactly that we feel needs to change so
Mm.
that women don't go through menstruation thinking, oh, I think I don't want to go through this anymore because this is sort of like a burden. and everything that I've learned from these camps that I've been associated with. So yeah.
Yeah, so now that you've mentioned that, we're gonna build up on that, and then I'll
Mm-hmm.
let Dr. Bernice talk on that. I think it's the our choices of words and how we try to, again, the secrecy is like we're shy to talk about it, but it needs to be spoken about. But over the years,
Exactly.
we've not really learned how to really, go about it. So my niece actually just started her menses, and I asked my mom, "Have you guys had any chat with her?" And they
Mm-hmm.
asked me what sort of chats, and I was like, "You can't be serious. You can't leave her the same way you left me to figure it out." Like I
Mm-hmm.
couldn't even talk to my sister about it. With my mom,
Mm-hmm.
I just went, "I think I've hurt myself," and then she went, "Where? What have you done?" So yeah. So I said, I woke up and this is what is happening. So she chuckled. I remember her just chuckling. And then she went, "No, you've
Mm-hmm.
not hurt yourself." So all she did was take my panty and line the pad for me and go, and when you gotta have to do this, and
Mm-hmm.
this you have to change it. She didn't even tell me like how many hours, the hygiene side of it. She just went, if you're uncomfortable, if there's heat. Because I was like, so the conversation wasn't, to me, looking at it now, because now I've learned a lot about myself, and obviously
Mm-hmm.
throughout the years you'll get to understand your body. So I was like, no, you need to sit her down and explain more
Mm-hmm.
into it. You can't just show her how to line it up and then say when there's heat,
Exactly.
when you feel heat. So my mom actually laughed and said, "How did you even remember this?" It's like, because I have to remember, it's one of those awkward conversations I had to have with you.
Mm-hmm.
And my sister that I
Mm-hmm.
thought I could go to, be my bigger sister, just went, "Oh, don't worry, it's normal." That's basically it. It's like, "You're a woman now, it's normal. Welcome to womanhood." I said, okay. So, you know, you don't play with guys. It's one thing that I hear quite a lot. Be careful with guys.
Mm-hmm.
How do I be, how should we be careful with
Exactly.
guys? So it's very vague how
Mm-hmm.
the talk goes. So I'm glad you mentioned this. So Dr. Bennett, looking at this conversation, right? How do you think that, especially from the health side, where we all have the very basic idea or knowledge of the health side, how do we incorporate this in our conversation, especially if we're to have it in these camps? I'm not sure. Correct me if I'm wrong, but if you know of any camps like that back in Ghana, you can share that with us as well. But you see, this conversation, yeah, with the health side, how do you think we can improve on it? In what ways can we freely talk about what it actually is that we want to say, that it's the sexual activities with a guy at this sort, or at this time, is what is going to bring about the teenage pregnancy and whatnot? Because, again, because the understanding is not there, the teenage pregnancy is still becoming a thing, because
Mm-hmm.
we've not really explained what it is that we need to explain to our girls. So if you can touch on that for us, Dr. Bernice.
Yes, please. That's a really good question. I actually have a lot of questions concerning the camp. Actually, I'm
Yeah,
actually
it's
very.
interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm sort of wondering how they get
Oh no, we're losing her again.
maybe
Yeah.
school to be
Oh,
there. Okay, probably we'll talk about that. But
no, you're back now.
okay,
We can hear you.
so please can you hear
Mm-hmm.
me?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can.
Yeah. So I was just wondering about that whole bit, but I think we'll talk more about it. So to the question that you asked, I think it's very important that we actually incorporate the bit of the hygiene aspect, the health aspect during this period. One thing I want to say before I even touch on the health bit is that we use this term that when a woman starts to menstruate, that's when she's initiated into womanhood.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and I think that has left, even though it's in a positive light, and we get why they say that, but I think it has left a very great negative impact also on the minds of a lot of people. Okay, so a young girl like 12 years, and you now tell her you are finally a woman. Some
Mm.
people are 30 and they don't even understand what it means to be a woman.
A
And you are
woman.
telling a 12-year-old that you are a woman. You need to know how to do this. You need to know how to cook this meal. You need to know how to stay away from guys. And it's like, so a lot of information is just thrown on us, even at such very tender ages, and it makes them just coil in, and some even lose their identity in that period. So I
Mm.
think as we bring them together, whether it's in the camps, whether it's in a home setting like you talked about your niece, we need to let them know that it's not just the fact that you are in a period where you are considered a woman in quotes, but it's a period where you also need to be extra careful
Careful.
about
Mm.
yourself as a woman, about your health as a woman, because having the flow is not just the fact that okay, in some years to come you're going to have a child, but having the flow is also indicative that if you don't take good care of yourself in this period, you might end up having other conditions which wouldn't have occurred if not for the flow.
Mm.
So I think that aspect needs to be actually heightened and hammered on a lot. You spoke about the fact that sometimes they just, I don't know how many mothers or aunties or guardians actually sit the kids down to let them know that okay, this is what you have to do in this period. This is what you have to
Mm.
do. Sometimes we just sort of evolve into them. We just learn the habits along the way, but who knows where we are going to learn the good ones and the bad ones. Yes, so I think we should let them know that it's very important, especially the concept of actually knowing the implications that it has on our body.
Mm.
Okay, I know we are going to talk about the fact that you need to change your pads, you need to wash down and all that. But the fact that a young girl actually starts to have a menses, there's a whole different health shift that she goes through. There are a whole different set of not different per se, but heightened levels of hormones that she begins to experience, and which sometimes can make her begin to desire certain things that ordinarily you wouldn't expect a young girl to actually have. So I think these are all health bits that we need to actually understand, that when a woman actually or a young girl actually starts to menstruate, hormones are elevated, so many things are going on, and at that point it has health effects on the woman in the good side and on the bad side. In the good side, one, sometimes some of these hormones are protective. They give us protection against certain forms of illnesses. On the other side, having early levels of menstruation, like one of the risk factors to breast cancer is early menarche. So if a woman starts to have her menses very early, even less
Mm.
than the age of 12, she's at an increased risk of developing breast cancer earlier on than other women.
Oh, I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
Same, I'm
because
surprised.
You see why we need
yeah,
to have these conversations. I didn't know
Mm-hmm.
that. I didn't know that.
And I'm
This,
learning. I'm
this, yeah.
learning about it now. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
yeah, because the one of the hormones that's actually heightened during when we start to menstruate is the hormone called estrogen. And the more that the cells in our breasts or our mammary glands are sensitized or actually exposed to this, it gives us that increased risk of actually having breast cancer. Of course, having a breast is also indicated that the risk is already there. However, early menarche, menarche less than the age of 12, has that increased risk. So we
Mm.
need to let all these aspects come in and let them know that we saying you're a woman is not just because you can have a child, but you are also stepping into a whole arena of good complications of what you are going through and the negative. So I think I touched on a bit of the good side. Sometimes just that aspect that they are having these changes in their body, it makes them more self-aware
Mm.
that okay, I am in a different stage of my life and I need to start taking certain decisions by myself. I need to know when to be changing my paths. I need to know how to do certain things. Because I think you asked if I'd been to one of these camps. I've never been to one, but at least from readings we used to have when we were much younger, we used to have certain ceremonial rites for women when they start to menstruate. It was like a whole big deal.
Mm.
Yeah.
I think
So I think
it's still there. I've seen the recent pictures of, is it the Krobo guy? The, yeah, I think it's Krobo with, and then I was like, oh, so this ceremony is still there because, but then we might, it's not as, we don't see it in the urban areas. It's all still in the rural areas. And the thing is, this is why I'm asking you this question, that with with the way we explain to these girls, right? The language is not,
mm,
the right language is not being used. Like, for example, don't play with God. That is very vague. Play in what sense? But we know
In
what
what
they mean now,
sense?
because we've, we've
mm,
matured to understand what they meant by don't play with guys. But
yeah,
before you are able to deduce and break that sentence down, the worst would have happened.
yeah,
So it it's more or less how we sort of break that bridge, or come to the point where we can freely say and advise
mm,
girls for what it is that we really want to say. And looking at our culture now, we are very sensitive in using certain words, again depending on the, obviously, the generation that it is
true.
that you're yeah, you find yourself around. If it's aunties, depending on if your auntie is a slave queen, or your moms and that getting involved, the conversation will be different. They will try
Yeah.
and massage it, and it
Mm-hmm.
still would not make sense than just, calling a spade, and saying it, having the conversation for them to really understand. How do we come, how do we get to that point?
Okay. Hmm. I think it's we have a long way to go in that regard, but I think if I'm to be fair, there's been a lot of improvement in that regard so far. At first, certain conversations that parents were not having with their kids,
Mm,
now they're having them, because if you don't have them, they will have it with someone.
yeah.
They will have those conversations with their friends, or they will
Yep.
go online. Now you get to see kids in primary schools with phones and
Mhm.
all over. So I think that awareness is actually becoming better now, that parents realize that if we don't actually talk to our kids about this, they may start finding out elsewhere, and the sources might not be so genuine. So, of course, I think we've come a good way, but there's still a long way ahead of us. So, in term to answer the question about how we can incorporate, I think we need to actually start sending the message out there, and even personally for us, those who have younger siblings,
Mhm.
we need to actually start having these conversations with them. Not just setting them down. Hey, this what happens. This what you have to do. This how to choose a man. Not such intense conversations, because I think it's a very long learning curve, that even as adults we still sometimes have to even seek mentorship to be able to grasp the entirety of this knowledge. But I think the basics that they can comprehend, we need to do our part. So as a
Mm,
parent, if there's a parent listening, just try and have such conversations with them even before they get to that stage.
yes.
It's like when we were in the primary schools, every level has the kind of knowledge that a child can consume. You can't teach calculus to someone in primary school. Neither can you go to someone in secondary school and start teaching a person one plus one.
Mm,
So I think we need to know that, okay, if my child is in primary four or GHS, this is the level of knowledge that I would have wished I knew at that point, and we actually disseminate that to them. Also, aside the bit of parents and family, we can also extend this arm of information to the churches and to other institutions where these children actually come into contact with such, especially in the schools. Sometimes these things are incorporated in our social studies education, but when it gets to such areas, still there's this bit of fear. I don't know if there's
mhm.
a law in Ghana or in other countries forbidding people from actually talking about these
Talking.
things. But I think that sensitization should be there, where teachers actually get to have these discussions with the students, male, female, everyone inclusive. So now we are looking at the home level, we are looking at the school level. Then definitely we should have some of these health institutions coming in, spreading the message out there, going out there for public education and health advocacy, to talk to the kids about menstrual hygiene. So I think if these few areas are put in place, we can actually see some improvement.
Mm.
And yeah, hopefully in the near future, we have kids who, when they start to actually transition into this phase of their life, it's not like they stumbled upon it. Because
Yeah.
most things that sometimes I hear, they are like, I didn't know what's going on. I just woke up and this happened. But no one wakes up and says, I just woke up and I saw my hair growing, because they
Mm.
know it's part of life. So I think we need to get that to that point where, from parents, from teachers, from schools, even health advocacy, we let them know that this is going to happen at this stage of your
Happen.
life.
So
From
it
12
prepares
months,
you.
we are expecting this. So you should be prepared for that.
Mm.
And I think it would lessen the fear and the stigma associated with it. Yeah. Thank you.
Sure. That's a great submission. Simba, let's hear from you on that same
Um,
question.
okay, I think Malawi as a whole has taken, we're not there yet, but I think we have taken a
Mm.
different approach because our education system has like a subject that they teach in primary school and secondary schools that's called life skills.
Mm.
So it's like you're equipping these kids with skills in life. And one of the areas that they touch on is menstruation, adolescence, and it's a topic that both boys and girls are going to learn about. Now, in as much as these are the topics that are there, a child has this knowledge that they've gained from school. They now understand that when a girl reaches a certain age, this is how their body is going to change. They're going to go through this phase and their menstruation is going to start. When you go back home and you have all this information with you, obviously a young kid's going to be curious and would want to ask their parents what's going on. And now it's like these parents feel like, why are these teachers teaching you these things?
Teaching.
And
Yeah.
exactly. And I remember there was a time where there was a conversation in like a country as a wise, from church leaders to parents. Do we need some of these subjects? Because for them, they looked at the negative effects of having such topics with children, where you're talking about sex openly. For them, the argument was, we're encouraging our kids to engage in sex. So it's like you're
Mm.
telling them this is exactly what happens. So if you know about these things, you want to go and try it out. And you look at the positives, these kids actually understand this is exactly what you're supposed to do. So they still that, in as much as such information is going out from schools, there's still that struggle between it being an issue of, no, these are not part of our morals and values. We're not supposed to
Mhm.
engage kids in such conversations. And in as much as I remember this year, I volunteered at a primary school in the community that I was at. Every time you start talking about issues to do with menstruation, it's like girls would shy away. They don't want to talk about it because the boys are going to laugh. But these
Mm.
are things that they've been learning from the class, like standard four, you've been talking about it. Five, you're talking about it. But every time the conversation comes through, it's like we're going to shy away. We don't want to talk about it because we're not expected to talk about it. I like the fact that you mentioned church. One of the things here in Malawi is that, you know how we have initiation, cultural initiation camps. We also have church camps.
Okay.
So it's it's like a modern way of having. It's not like an initiation, because what they're trying to do is they bring girls and boys separate separate. I don't know if I can call it camps because it's like church. So they take you through, oh, now that you're a woman. It's similar to the cultural situation, the ceremony. It's just that it's more church. They're going to pray, and they're going to encourage them to abstain and things of that sort. So both sectors are incorporating the need to have this talk with girls and boys.
Mm,
However, don't talk too much. That's the thing. Don't talk too much because you might say something and it's going to be encouraging for the kids to talk
mm.
about. That also takes me back to a memory when I was in primary school. My best friend back then had started her menstruals. So I think she needed to change her pad. And by then, I didn't know anything about menstruation. This was me living life as a kid, not knowing anything. And then she goes, I need you to escort me to the bathroom. I'm like, what are we going there? And then she's like, okay,
It's the
you're
worst
not
friend for
supposed to
me.
tell anyone. Exactly. You're not supposed to tell anyone, but I actually have blood coming out of me. I'm like, wait, no, that's not all right. We have to report this. She's like, no, my auntie told me I'm not supposed to tell anyone that this is my situation.
Wow.
As long as I am moving and I'm fine, I'm coming to school, I'm okay. Just
Wow.
make sure that when I stand up, I don't have a stain on my dress.
Check that
So this is
360
me. I'm
check. Do
still
that
trying.
360 check.
Exactly. So this is me trying to digest everything that she said. She actually just told me she has blood coming out of her, and yet she's moving. She doesn't look hurt. Why do you have blood coming out of you? And why is it that we're not supposed to tell the teacher? Are you sure this is what is supposed to happen? So when I went with her to the bathroom, she goes through this whole talk. Now I'm confused because I've never heard anything of this sort.
Mm,
I go back home and now I'm out here debating. Should I ask my mom about it because she told me I'm not supposed to tell anyone? We're not even
Mm,
allowed to tell the teacher about it. And she was female, by the way.
wow.
So the next day, I'm like, Ma, what if I told you that someone was like producing blood and they were still moving around? And my mom's like, oh, where did you get this from? I'm like, no, just Jen, I need you to. Do you
Mm,
think we should take this person to the hospital and report them? So my mom understood that this was the situation. She was like, I don't know if the person feels fine to move around, it's fine. She
mm,
didn't take me through that conversation. It was until later on when I, before my period started, I used to have cramps and whatever, and I didn't know what was going on. And my mom sort of knew probably sooner or later she's going to go through a phase where her period's going to come through. So she
mm.
took me down that conversation. However, I also got the don't play with boys if this ever happens to you and things of that sort. But she took me through the conversation. This is what you're supposed to expect. This is how your body is going to react and things of that sort. And I was grateful for that because my menstruals came through when my mom was not home. So it was just my dad. And
mm,
the thing is, she never told me if this happens to you, don't go to your dad and
Yes.
whatever. She just told me if this ever happens to you, go to that particular drawer, open it, you're going to find these pads, and this is how you put it on. So when it started, I remember her being away and it's just me and my dad. I'm like, okay. So the drawer that she told me to get is in her room. And now how do I start explaining to my dad that women have blood coming out? Is it not going to freak him out? So how do I start that conversation? And I remember going to him and going, oh, Mom said if I ever see blood coming out of me, I should get some. So he understood what was going on. And when he went to that particular drawer, he found there was nothing there. So he didn't want to freak me out. He just went by, got the pads, and he was like, do you know how
That's
to
good.
use them? I'm like, yeah, I know how to use them. He's like, are you sure? I'm like, yeah, okay, cool. So that was that. And when she came back, I didn't have to tell her. My
Mm,
dad called her and told her everything. So I'm because in as much as she was not fully okay with her explaining everything to me,
mm-hmm.
she made sure I got the basics, the essential part, how to take care of myself, when to take your baths, how you're supposed to feel, and things of that sort. So I think I was just trying to bring across the fact that in as much as we have these conversations, be it school or church or whatever, it is still met with a level of secrecy where
Mm-hmm.
certain things are not supposed to be spoken of. You can tell these things to a certain extent, but don't go beyond that, because if you go beyond that, you're probably going to take away some innocence from this person. And yet, this is how the body functions. Sooner or later, I'm going to find out this is exactly what it's supposed to do. So we have those conversations in so many spaces in Malawi, but I feel like we still want to maintain that level of, let's talk, but to a certain extent. Let's not go beyond it, because
Mm.
it's going to disturb our kids. So I think, as doctors say, we should have parents be open to the idea of realizing that information is everywhere. Kids are probably going to get it, and it's best that we open up and speak to our kids so that they get information from us, because information that is shared with the parent is shared with love. The same way they tell you don't play with boys is the same way they're going to explain it to you in a way that you're going to remember for the rest of your life. So
Yeah,
let's have this
that don't play with
conversation.
boys just makes me
I-
chuckle all the time.
Don't play with boys. Like, what do you mean?
Yeah, so yeah,
So,
great submission from both of you. And I mean, it shows that there's a gap in the conversation somewhere, and how
mhm.
we have to bring, or how to bridge the gap without taking the innocence from these children, or these adolescents, is also another conversation that we can have. And I feel okay. So with your dad, this is why we're trying to get men on board as well. Again, I had a great conversation with the guys on Tuesday, where we spoke about the importance of getting men involved. Imagine if your dad also didn't know about it and was shy to go out there and get the
Exactly.
product for you, because it happens where some men are very, like, it's a no, it's a taboo to tell them to go and purchase a menstrual product. And sometimes, I don't know, I feel it's come to that point. We're in 2024, where it shouldn't be it shouldn't be something you shy away from. But again, this is where we find ourselves, where, because that conversation had not been had, is not being had in a very comfortable environment, or in an open environment, for us to understand that it's not a woman problem. As a guy, you also need to understand certain things to be able to help out during that time, because it could be your sister, it could be your girlfriend by the time you grow up, or your wife. And again, the gap is still there, and like Dr. Bernice said, it's going to take time, and we've come far. We're here openly having this conversation. And again, on Wednesday, we had guys on the event openly talking about their engagement, something that you would not see. And we talked about actually the negative comments that comes with guys, being at the forefront of this conversation. One guy was very safe, let me put it in that way, because he works in the medical environment. So people around him are sort of okay, because it's the environment that they find themselves in. Whereas the other, not so lucky, because it's a way like, hey, you two, a man, why are you all over in this business that has got nothing to do with you? But it takes a brave guy, or a brave man in the society that we especially with us, to be able to say, okay, it's not a bad issue, or a bad thing to get yourself in. And I really commend them, for Asante and Emily. Keep up with the great work, and adding your voice to this conversation. So let's recap. We've talked about, I think we've sort of literally just branched into the negative side of it from the positive, and it's good to see that there's some positive out there, and we've come far from what I can remember so now, even though this conversation, even amongst females, it's still a very shy topic to talk about. I mean, we you can barely, it's not a thing that you sit with your girls and be like, oh, by the way, let's talk about menstruation. It's one of
So
those odd,
true.
yeah, it's one of those odd topics that you would want
Yeah.
to, but see, if we as women are finding it difficult and sensitive or secretive to talk about it, um, it shows that we go a long way to go, and the fact that we're trying to get men involved in this conversation as well. How do men get in this conversation if we as women are shy to talk about it? You know, um, but it's great. It will get better, and I know with time, we will get the right. We'll strike the right balance. The To prepare our girls, and our boys as well, with the right information, the right knowledge, and also for there to be a great home environment that this conversation can be had. Because the thing is, I think it was Sembe who was talking about how some parents and even church members as well find it that the school is doing too much and saying too much. And so it's become a debate where you just don't know where to strike the balance. It's a conversation that we need to have, but as to what information and do you think there should be like should I say an organization or a system where if it cannot be taught in school, there can be that environment. I don't want to use the word rehab center. I'm trying to find a right word. A right word. Organization. I think organization should surface where you basically go there to get this knowledge, or this information. But then again, I feel it should be part of our life skills or social studies,
Yeah.
so that we learn it in classroom with the boys. And because it is not just about a woman, blood coming out of us. Let me put it that way. There's more to it. It's there's
Exactly.
it's the bare minimum. It's the bare minimum that we need to know, and how to um package ourselves during that time. It's the bare minimum that we need to learn. There's a lot, and Dr. Bennis has actually explained a few of these reasons as to the health issues that can happen, even having your periods early, which is something that I don't know, and I'm so happy that you shared it with us. So Dr. Bennett, we're going to come to you with the health side, on this topic, that why you feel is so important, and what you think, um, the you guys in the health section can help in educating us earlier in this in this sort of conversation. What sort of thing do you think can be put in place? What policies, what structures? How do we get these conversations so that these information can be known beforehand? And again, the sensitivity of it, to tell an 11-year-old girl who's menstruated that because they've menstruated too early, they stand a higher risk of breast cancer. It's too much of an information to give to a child.
Yeah.
So how do we break it? Is it when we have this conversation with the family, at what stage as well? Where can we break or bridge these gaps so that if the conversation has been had in school, the church can set up something, the community can set up another thing. How do we break it, and how in that information being shared should it how do we even go about it? I think I've asked a lot of questions in one.
Okay. So yeah, that's a good question once again. Yeah, so definitely I like what you said, that the fact that blood is coming out of us, literally it's the bare minimum of what we need to know, because that we are seeing already. You don't need to tell us what we
Mm,
are seeing. We want to know the implications of what we are seeing. And I think the aspect of health is a major area that we need to really speak to our girls about. One thing is, it's actually really difficult to tell a young girl that, okay, when you see blood coming out of you, rush to the nearest hospital. How many of these young girls can actually go to the hospital by themselves?
Mm.
I don't remember I actually ever going to a hospital by myself at such a tender age. You have to go with someone, and now we are having this issue of actually telling this person what you are going through. And sometimes maybe some parents will not see the need. Okay, why should I actually take my daughter to a hospital because of this? This is a natural phenomenon. So I think just putting it out there that we need to get our girls to the hospital to educate them might not be enough. So we have to actually put in measures to actually help that they still get the needed amount of information at that stage of their lives.
Mm.
So currently, I realize that there are a couple of NGOs I've been seeing, especially on LinkedIn during this period, who are very invested in menstrual health education, sensitization of the girls. Mostly they go to the schools, so the parents are not directly reached, but they actually speak to the girls and even the male students about this. And I think that's one of the very positive initiatives that we need to support. You know, and if
Mm.
possible, if there's any NGO that's into that, listening to this conversation, they can try to incorporate. I know that's one thing they mostly do, but try to still incorporate more of the health aspect. Okay, probably getting a health personnel on board to be able to talk about some of these things, to be able to actually have a more in-depth conversation per their level with them. So I think as a health sector too, we should try and reach out some of these NGOs, because sometimes it's difficult for them to reach out. But if, as health professionals, we also take it upon ourselves to also reach out to these organizations to let them know that, okay, we are willing to help if you would have us to be able to talk to them. I think that would be a very great initiative. Also, I
Mm.
think it will help if we have avenues where sometimes these health professionals actually go to churches and other institutions where these young girls can be reached to put out the message about this. You know, I know maybe this might be far fetched, but probably I'm foreseeing a future where we might even have a billboard, of something, just
Mm.
briefly letting people know that it's not a crime, because we are in an
Yeah.
age where we have our girls, they are in cars all the time, they see these big,
Mm-hmm.
big
Mm-hmm.
billboards and these mini flyers and posters all around. Probably we could also channel some resources to that, make some mini post or information on flyers that they can easily read at a glance, okay, about some of these health information. I think it will help. And I know that these sanitary pad packs we buy, I know mostly we don't even sit to read. I don't think I've ever actually sat down to read everything that is on the pack.
Yeah.
But probably for this might be a long term thing. But actually getting these companies who make these productions, so just as now, I think some of these brands have these mini disposable bags that they put inside the sanitary packs. We could
Mm.
just customize, not customize per se, but just put some mini messages about menstrual
Yes.
health inside the packs. That when they take it out, something brief that they can read in 2 seconds, something about menstrual health,
Mm.
probably a contact you can call of an NGO if you have any questions that probably you are finding difficult to reach out to someone, because some people are not even staying with their parents,
Mm-hmm.
to be able to tell them. So I think all these areas, if we target them and we continually preach their message about menstrual health, I believe it's going to actually get our girls to know about it. I remember a very funny experience when I was in GHS, when we were having this talk about menstruation, and one of my colleagues, a female, actually asked, "Oh, sir, so this small egg you have put on the picture, how come it can produce blood for like 5 days?" You know, so she was wondering how such a small egg, I think that's how we've always pictured it in our head. How come this small egg is
Yes.
producing such amount of blood? And I
Mm-hmm.
remember some of the guys used to ask, okay, so is it like whilst you are sleeping, the blood is still coming, or the blood comes during the day? and you are free in the night. I feel that these are questions we can easily answer.
Answer yes.
Okay, these are not over curious minds. These are very simple questions that we can answer. Then, as I know, most health science teachers and social studies teachers have a bit of these health aspects related. They can then chip it in, because it might be difficult to always have, let's say, a qualified health professional in every single school talking about it. But then again, as I said, if we can have a collaboration between these NGOs and health professionals going out there to talk to girls about it, that will also be a very good initiative to help bridge the gap. I'll just say this, then I would end my submission. Probably there's a
Sure.
young girl listening out there, and you actually don't even know if you are actually going through this whole menstrual period as well as you are supposed to. Probably you've heard a lot, you know and we want you to know that we are here for you. You can feel free to reach out and let us know your concerns, and we would definitely get back to you. But know that you are going through a period which is normal. You are not cursed.
Mm.
The pain can be unbearable sometimes, but know that you are not cursed. You are perfectly fine. However, if you realize that you are bleeding excessively, okay, then you know that you need to report to the hospital. Okay, if you realize that you are having over 7 days excessive production of clots, then you need to be attended to. You are having pain, unbearable pain, to the point that you can't even go to school because of the pain, then you know that you need to be checked on, because we have conditions that actually are associated with that. So the earlier you are assessed, the better it will be. You don't need to always be um, feeding yourself with these painkillers. Let us check on you to make sure there's no underlying condition that you are going through, and you'll be right about fine. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you so much for that submission. It's a great submission. Thank you so much. So I just want to acknowledge some of the comments in there. Echo is back. Hello, Echo. It's nice to have you. Echo, and the guys getting involved in menstrual stuff is great. So he says it's the worldview thing. A guy buying menstrual products in Ghana is breaking news. It's to be honest with you, it's not just in Ghana. I think it's even a common thing in the Western world as well. But it's funny because you normally find it in the Commonwealth, community, and also like the underdeveloped or developing countries. Those sort of um, it's common. Let me say it's common amongst our those sort of people. And with time, I'm sure we will get there where it won't be anything. It won't be a breaking news anymore, because it's okay. What buying it for your girl child, buying it for your wife, your sister, this it just shows that you care. And it's also yeah, it's another level of care, and you taking care of the women around you. But hopefully sooner rather than later, it won't be breaking news anymore. Yes, more awareness is definitely needed, and a lot of conversations and actions, call to actions, and also in putting these actions in place. Because sometimes what I've seen is we talk, and then when the stakeholders involved, it becomes a big challenge. So I think, I don't know if Chrissy shared it on his status, or because I already know about it, so I feel like he's already shared it. But when we're trying to have this menstrual health activity in school, we're actually having a lot of pushbacks from the females, which we found it difficult to understand. So um, when some of the stakeholders you feel shouldn't be the problem now becomes a problem, it makes it you know 100 times harder to have the conversation and even do the little that you can as individuals. And I think Ubalda also shared a similar issue as well. So hopefully, we as women would also not be part of the problem, but will be part of the solution, because of maybe the way we think and how we've seen things being done. and so on, so that the girls or our girls do not get taken advantage of when the right information is not being given, or the right support is not there. And I'm also looking for a time where the parent and the girl or the family, there will be like a setting where the families come together in either in church or in a community, and they all talk about it. They can share different family conversations around these topics. I don't know if you get the picture I'm trying to paint.
Mm-hmm.
I think it would be great, instead of always segregating just the girls or just the parents or just the boys, having all these stakeholders together would make it easier for the conversation to be had. Then it breaks that the shyness. I mean, it will take time because imagine having to talk about menses with your brother or your cousin. It's not something that it will come with time. Again, like we're saying, that it's even difficult as females to even have this conversation. So hopefully with time we'll be able to get all these stakeholders in one place and continue this conversation and have the right environment and support that we need, especially for the youngsters that are now about to experience these changes in their system, and also to educate the boy child on how they can help, and also the knowledge around it to for them to be of help during that time. So yeah, thank you very much for that submission, Dr. Bernice. So Simba, we come to you so that we can run up. How do you think we can bridge some of these gaps in the knowledge? What sort of implementation can we put um, encourage in our communities, or even as individuals, or even in our families? What sort of programs, or even activities can we put in place for that breaking or bridging of the gap in the conversation and the education as well?
All right. I think the first one would be involving the health sector to be involved in such spaces. If we're talking about church,
Mm,
we're talking about school, because these are the people that are going to give you the right information. Look at you and me out here being surprised about the breast cancer
I
situation,
know, right?
and we're out here talking about menstrual hygiene, menstrual health, and we just
Mm,
learned something new today. So if we have a collaboration with the 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 medical experts and organizations, because most organizations like my organization and probably triple A are doing it because of the passion and the gap that they see in communities that they're working in. However, we do not have the medical experience and
yeah.
exposure to these things that we can give out rightful information. We're giving information based on our experiences, the things that we've seen, but we can't talk about the medical aspect side of the whole situation. So
Mm,
I think it's important for the medics to come in and talk about menstruation from such a point of view. And I believe that in rural communities, a lot of people treasure the the values that they have, the cultural customs
mhm,
and things of that sort. Initiation camps are still a thing. So these are places where a girl child is probably going to go to when they start their menstruation. We have heard of stories of all the negative things that happen in such initiation camps. I think we can't ignore them, because
mhm,
girls are going to go through initiation camps year and year, and it's a practice that's going to be there and people value it. The best thing would be for organizations, for the medical experts to work with these people, because I believe you get to incorporate real positive things into whatever they're trying to teach the girls. And when I was working uh, for the research project that we have, the documentation of what we call enanga. Enanga is sort of like a safe space
Mm.
for young women and girls, and it was established in Zimbabwe, and we're trying to find out if we have similar spaces in other Southern African countries. And that's how we had the research, and we're able to come across the camp that I was talking about, where they engage young women and girls and issues to do with menstruation. So we should incorporate these guys because they have access to girls each and every year. So teach them, train them, get to learn from them without taking away what they hold as precious to them when they're teaching these girls these things. It's
Mm.
because they have access to these girls. We want to work with them so that we ensure that they're giving out the right information.
Information,
Whatever
yeah.
they've been teaching girls that was not right should be corrected with the right
Yeah.
information. And
Yes.
I think when you propose a partnership with these people, they feel incorporated, they feel seen, they feel valued, because I think they're probably tired of people going around saying, no, you should stop these initiation camps because
Mm.
you're doing A, B, C, D. So let's try to look at the positive side and what they can offer us and what we're trying to bring across. So let's try to incorporate them, work out a partnership with them, also trying to enlighten them while respecting some of the positive things that they're doing. Because when we talk about initiation camps, as I mentioned, it's a celebration of sisterhood. So when you incorporate that partnership, it's you trying to say we value what you're trying to do, but I think these are some of the things that you can incorporate into your system so that it works well. The other situation I feel like we should also work on is for organizations. I'll give an example of Core Africa. Core Africa recruits volunteers, male and females. And
Mm.
one of the trainings that they have is a training on how to make reusable sanitary pads, because they know they're sending out their volunteers into these communities, and they are going to probably interact with different people. So think of a guy who is coming around to teach you how to make sanitary pads, and yet he doesn't have the right information
Information.
about menstruation. So he's just going to teach you this thing, but he's not going to take you through the talk. So
Mm.
such organizations are now bringing in people that deal directly with issues to do with menstruation, so that the people that they're sending out there as ambassadors for their brand, who are going to teach girls about how to make these pads, also have the right information. So whatever programs that we have that have to do with youth development or young people are involved in, as much as the issues to do with entrepreneurship, whatever fellowship that may be, I think we should also take advantage of such spaces. Invite organizations with that are working towards promoting menstrual hygiene, menstrual health, so that these people can be able to share the message, because this is a large group that's going to carry the right information, and they're going to disperse in different communities. So I feel like organizations should also make it a habit to go through these things. So before I close off, I would like to comment on a few things that I think were mentioned before.
Mm-hmm.
um, Firstly, I think there was an issue to do with we should take advantage of the packaging of pads. I
Definitely.
just also wanted to make a comment to say there are certain, I don't know if I can call it myths that go around with certain things. Till today, you will never find me, even if I would travel, take my used pad and throw it in a bin, because I have this fear of someone's probably going to do something with my because these are things that are taught to you. You are not supposed to dispose your pad anyhow because someone's going to perform some juju on it. You are not allowed to do that. I think for me, I think personally, it was just a training to say these things are not supposed to just be thrown anyhow. You have to
Yes.
dispose of them correctly. But this fear has been instilled in us to say, if you dare throw use pad in a bin somewhere. Every time I get to travel, I'm always praying, oh God, I hope I'm not on my menstruation, because how am I going to, how am I going to dispose of this and things of that sort. So I think we also have to be careful with how we bring about such messages, because if you're trying to just say, well, when you're using a disposable pad, make sure you dispose of it correctly or in the right spot. Don't just leave it anyhow because this is your blood and whatever, without scaring someone. It scars people to have these things. The other issue I think I've already touched on is how organizations can also incorporate other organizations that are working on menstrual health in different programs. The other thing that I also wanted to mention is that when it comes to trying to drive a message across, I think it all there's a need to scare people for them to understand the message. I think in most African societies with African aunties and moms, because I think there was a mention to say it's okay for you to understand that sometimes you're going to go through cramps, but when it gets a bit unbearable, then you must go to the hospital. These are messages that we don't regularly get. It's like, no, you have to stick it up. You're a lady, you know, you have to deal with the pain.
You're
Don't take those
strong.
painkillers. Exactly, you're strong. Don't take those painkillers. And then to top it off, they go like, there are more pains than this. What if you're about to give? It's more
Give
than
birth.
that. But I'm feeling pain. I'm not yet to that level where I'm about to give birth, but I'm feeling these pains, and sometimes it's something that you need to get checked for. But because the message that goes out there is you're supposed to be strong, you can function fully as a human being when you're in your menstruals. Don't let anyone see you as weak during this time. You just have to function. We are humans, we're not robots. If someone is not feeling fine, get to the hospital, get yourself checked, because it might be serious than what someone may perceive it. Because most of the time they might think you're overreacting.
Mm-hmm.
People have been through this, they've been through worse. It's just cramps. Get up, do this, do that, when a person's not feeling fine. So let us learn to be sensitive around people's pain if they express they're going through something of that
Yeah.
sort. Recently, I had a conversation with a group of friends. I think after we had a session where a different organization that talks about menstrual health came through, and guys were involved and they were shocked. I remember going out from that session and all these boys looked as if they were in some horror movie, but it was just a conversation about menstruation. So if you were out here, I remember some guy asking on the table when we are having lunch, do you guys really go through that? We're like, yeah. And then I remember a friend going, does anyone have those electric shocks that just hit you randomly when you're
Wow.
going through your day and it just hits you? Woo, and you can't sit properly because it just hit you where you're supposed to sit at, and everyone's there relating, oh my god, like, and this is something that we've never talked about, but it had to take an organization to come through, talk about menstrual health for us to find out. I think it's something that we all go through. Is it something that we're supposed to be worried about and things of that sort? And then recently, ever since I go through my TikTok, I'm coming across these videos of people talking about this electric shock. I'm like, oh, okay, so it's not just me. So we as females also need to be comfortable talking about things we experience with our bodies, because what you think someone might not go through is probably something that they're probably going through, and you're just
Yes.
scared to have that conversation. So let's talk about these things, because it should start with us. We should
Us.
break these barriers, because I think we're out here laughing at some of the stories and how our parents tried to communicate, but it's because of this that we feel the need to talk about it. And in
Mm-hmm.
as much as we talk about it, we still feel the need to not talk about almost everything, because
Everything.
how do I start this conversation? So we need to be uncomfortable to be comfortable. Let's start having these conversations, because we're probably going through the same thing. So yeah, that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you so much for the summary, actually, and then the final words. Thank you so much, Simba. You've done well with the summary. You've captured everything that we've said so far. So yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Bernice. Your final words, and yeah, if there's anything more that you want to share with us.
Okay, so that was a beautiful one there.
Mm-hmm,
I think Cindy has said all that I had to add. Yeah, but I think just as I said earlier, let's all get on board. Okay, I just want us all. That I really loved it so much when I saw the guys also coming on
mm-hmm,
board for this initiative. I want us all to get on board because, in as much as we don't want to tag um, menstruation as the sole mark of maturity for a woman, it's a very key thing and it is celebrated in a lot of places because we feel that you have reached a stage where in some years to come you are going to bring another life to this world. And the reason why I always think guys should be the ones actually spearheading so many things is, you're going to get married and you would want your wife to have a child. You would, even if you are going for um, IVF, in vitro fertilization, or artificial insemination, you still need the egg. You still need mature eggs, regardless. So I think we should all need to get on board. Parents, husbands, boys, guys, men, older people, all need to get on board, and we should get on board for the right reasons. We should let women know that this is part of growth. It's one of the markers of growth, and we should let them know there's a space for them. And also, if there are any NGOs out there listening, you should know that you can reach out to us at any time. And if you want a health professional to be on your team to support, know that we are there anytime. Even if we can't be there because of the distance, you could probably reach out to other healthcare professionals who are within reach to also help with the initiative so that as we go out there, we are not just going to give free parts and free whatever, or just showing them how to place the parts in their underwears, but we're also going to add a health bit,
mm-hmm.
okay, which would sensitize them the more. So I think that's pretty much what I would say, that whatever we have discussed here shouldn't end here. But whoever is listening or whoever is yet to listen should implement this in your small way. As a parent, start talking to your daughters about it, start talking to your sons about it. As a brother, if you see your sister going through it, help her. Get her something to ease her pain when there are moments of pain. Pamper them at least. As a
Comfort food.
husband,
We will love you more.
comfort food. Yeah, and as a husband to support your wife, I know there are a lot of controversy surrounding um, husbands, wives, and the concept of menstruation. We're not going to go into that today, but you just support them in the ways that you can. And I believe very soon this will be a topic that we can freely discuss in the
Mm-hmm.
confines of all dignity. Because in as much as we want us to freely talk about this, there needs to be that level of dignity that we also attach to these very sensitive topics. Yeah. So thank you so
Yes.
much, and God bless
Thank
you for
you.
this beautiful initiative.
Thank you very much. It's having guests like you that makes it beautiful because I could sit here and talk by myself and it wouldn't be as great a conversation than having great guests like yourself and Simbe on board. So thank you for adding your voice and also joining in this series. I really do appreciate you guys. And I've learned a lot, trust me. From the guys to you the beginning when we had Ubauda and all these girls, amazing girls that are into NGOs or foundations, and even as individuals embarking on these activities when it comes to menstrual health and hygiene. It's been a great series so far, and I really every day I learn something new. Like just today, I've learned that there's actually still initiation camps for menstruation out there, and it's all positive. It's great to hear that, and also from the health side, I've learned something new today. So this is why we need to have continuously have this conversation because every day is a learning day, and every day comes um, words of wisdom and ideas that you never thought really exist, or old ideas that you had that has changed over the years. So it's good and it's great to have different perspective on this topic. So yeah, thank you very much to our viewers and listeners, those that listen in on YouTube and on LinkedIn. We really do appreciate you, and those that have added comments. Elvis says this is powerful. Thank you very much, and I hope your network was able to behave itself for you to stay with us to the end. If not, you can rewatch it on YouTube. So yeah, thank you once again, Dr. Bernice and Sembe, for joining me on this conversation. And I hope we do have this conversation again. As
Sure.
time goes on, we can, build up on it and see how far we've come from our last conversation. So without wasting much more time, this is Triple A Group. My name is Afua, and my guests today were Sembe from Malawi and Dr. Bernice from Ghana. And yes, this is a topic that we're choosing to have throughout the month of June to the end of June, just so that we can talk openly about certain taboos, stigmas, old ideas and perspectives, and even new ones regarding this topic. And together we can share ideas and find a way forward. So thank you for sticking with us. We appreciate you. It's Friday. Enjoy your weekend, but stay safe. Thank you very much. And it's bye from us. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank
Have a great
you.